I hope
They
it's
said that
okay with
they
everyone,
said
but
that
I'm
they
gonna
have things to read, and
plan on
so
sitting because I
that's why they're
have,
sitting.
in order to keep down to 5 minutes, I really had to tone things down. And so can everybody hear me okay? All right, thank you. So my name's Joe Petrina, and I've been a resident of Laurelhurst for the last 30 years. I've been a remodeling contractor for 35 years. I've worked in established neighborhoods such as Laurelhurst, Eastmoreland, Irvington, Lads Addition, the west side, Lake Oswego, Dunsdorf, pretty much all around the Portland metropolitan area. I built new houses, and also, but mostly remodeled homes. Never flipped a house, never tore a house down, to build 2 houses, and I'm not a big fan of tearing houses down and seeing growth like what we've seen. So I understand everybody's point of view, and that's not how I make a living, nor is it something that I enjoy seeing happen. But there is the problems that I have. There's a few, I think actually the reason that people would like to see a historic district in this neighborhood, in most neighborhoods, is because of the demolition of homes. And I think some people think it's an epidemic, that it's happening at such a rapid pace. But in Laurelhurst, and I think Dick Kuhn had mentioned that Laurelhurst has probably one of the lower demolition rates in the city. And I was talking to a person a couple days ago, and he had done a statistic and said that he thought that there were 13 homes that had been raised in our neighborhood since 2005, which is a little more than one house a year, which to me doesn't seem like it's quite an epidemic. There's a few reasons why I think we should weigh out whether or not we want a historic district in our neighborhood. And one reason I feel strongly about is the voting method, and I think everybody understands the voting method. I was going to go through a process of explaining if you're an absentee owner and you live in New York or Florida or somewhere else in the country, and you don't even know a historic district is being formed, you're probably not going to be in opposition because you don't even know what's happening. And also, there's in the voting process, if someone went through and requested, applied for a historic designation, there's a lot of neighbors that are busy with kids. They have sporting events, they're just tied up, and they don't have time to even think about the process. So all those people that are uninformed and do nothing are yes votes. And then last of all, anybody that really does want to see a historic district, they don't have to do anything. But the no votes have to go through a process, and I worked on the Buckman Historic District. There are 600 homes in Buckman, and you have to go through a process, and you have to fill out a paper, have to have it notarized to prove that you're the owner, and you have to show opposition to it. Then that paperwork has to go to the National Park Service, who is the governing agent of historic districts. And if you don't have more than 51 or 50% of votes, and in Buckman they shot more for like 55% because they knew that some of the forms were going to probably be filled out incorrectly, and they just wanted to make sure they got it. They wanted to have it opposed, and it did go down. However, there's only 600 houses, 600 homes in Buckman. In order to get half of that, you're only talking about maybe 350 houses altogether. It would be a monumental effort in a neighborhood like Laurelhurst to oppose it, because there are so many people that would be uninformed. You would have to have probably about 950, well actually, excuse me, every homeowner has the opportunity to vote on it. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that if there are 2 names in the title, both parties can vote. So, say, I believe in Laurelhurst there's 1,800 homes. There may be, close to 3,000 people that could vote. So we would need to get, 1,600 or 1,700 votes to oppose it. So it's very, very difficult. It's a very difficult process, and people would really have to work hard to oppose it. And unfortunately, and Dick, you had mentioned earlier that the Laurelhurst Neighborhood Association would not be we wouldn't be asking for the designation. Somebody else would be applying for it, or at least that's what I understood what you had said. So I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood.
The neighborhood association isn't planning, certainly tonight or within the next few weeks, of taking a position one way or another. We may very well. I'm not ruling that out. What we do want to do is continue to provide educational efforts, and we want to explore the specifics of the process that you have to go through, so that if the association approves an historic district, we'll be ready to proceed as quickly as possible. So we want your feedback before we do anything, but it's not that we're not necessarily going to do it.
I understand. Dick, thanks for your clarification. So that being said, my feeling is, in East Portland right now, they're going through the same process. And they also, was told by a friend of mine that lives in East Portland, they're going to have a neighborhood vote that has nothing to do with going through the process of the National Park Service criteria for voting. It's just going to be a neighborhood vote. And it's yes votes and no votes. If you abstain, it's not counted. So my feeling is that it should be a majority of people in this neighborhood that really would like to see a neighborhood designation form. And if the majority of the neighborhood does not want to see it, I don't think that it should occur. And that's why I feel like the way the Park Service goes through the voting process is undemocratic. So, and I had put out some flyers there that people can read. The other thing is that aside from the voting process, and if the Laurelhurst Neighborhood Association was willing to create a ballot and vote, which I would like to see happen, there's a couple other things that one has to consider in getting a historical district. The timeline of having work being done. I'm doing a project right now, and we're actually not in the process yet because we're still waiting for the historic review to be finished. And by the way, I don't have to do the historic review myself. I don't have to draw the plans. I have people that come to me, they don't even know sometimes they're in the historic district, and I explain to them they have to go through this process, and this particular woman didn't understand it 6 months ago. Now she's finally hired an architect, she's gone through the process, and we're doing a kitchen, kind of a back interior space, but she wanted to change 2 windows. So I asked her what those windows were going to cost to change, and she said it was $200 or $250, I believe, for the permit for the review, but it cost her about $2,700 in architectural fees because they had to draw up all the elevations. And in the process, they were really excited because they had a porch they wanted to put on the back side of the house that they weren't planning on doing, but during the process they thought, well, let's do this at the same time. Well, that pushes it into a type 2 review. So then they were going to have to go back to the historic district and resubmit and pay additional fees and pay additional architectural fees. So she was thinking it was going to be more complete cost of the windows and the porch, about $6,000. So they elected not to do the porch because they were already in the historical review to do these 2 windows. So it's a timeline issue, and instead of starting the job a few months ago, we'll probably start it in November, December. From my standpoint, it's no big deal because whether I do the project 4 months ago or and I don't really have much to do with the process. The review is usually the architect and the owner and paying fees. And I showed Stacy from the city. There's a timeline that I didn't pass around, but anyway, it was a fellow came to me the other day, and he lives in Irvington. It took him about 1 year to go from the time he applied. He was denied. He had 3 different hearings afterwards, and finally it was approved in May. So he hasn't started the project. So it was just a long time. So I appreciate your time, and I love people to ask questions later about other issues and as far as what homeowners have dealt with trying to get permits in a historical district. And last of all, I just want to make sure to know if there is application, it will be a very difficult process to stop. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.